Hey, listeners, before we dive into today's episode, I wanted to let you know that this episode is being sponsored by Toner TC30 USB microphone. This is the exact microphone that I use for my audio and video podcast. It comes with USB connection, so it's hassle-free. You can just connect it to your laptop or your desktop. It comes with a pop filter, which is great for filtering out background noise so your voice will shine through. It comes with a shock mount so your recordings will stay vibration free. So whether you're in the world of gaming, streaming, podcasting, voiceovers, or YouTube content, consider upgrading your sound with the Toner TC30. Now let's get back to the show. Stay tuned for an episode packed with insights and knowledge. Welcome back to another enlightening episode of MH Knows or She Knows Someone Who Does. I'm your host, Marianne Holt, and today we have a captivating guest who is a true luminary in the world of financial planning. It is my pleasure to introduce Don Graves. With a career spanning over 2 decades, Don is a trailblazer in the realm of retirement planning. His unwavering dedication to helping advisors and retirees understand the transformative power of the new reverse mortgage has made him a revered figure in the financial industry. Don serves as a guiding light for financial professionals and clients alike, providing invaluable insights into the often overlooked strategies of the reverse mortgage tool. His extensive experience, having trained thousands of advisors, impacting thousands of clients, is a testament to his commitment to shaping a brighter financial future for retirees. What truly sets Don apart is his passion for dispelling myths and misconceptions surrounding reverse mortgages. He's on a mission to ensure that advisors and retirees not only grasp the potential of this financial instrument, but also use it effectively to secure their retirement income and address the looming challenge of outliving their wealth. Whether you're a financial advisor seeking to enhance your practice, a retiree contemplating your financial security, or simply curious about the evolving landscape of retirement planning, today's episode promises to be a revelation. Don Graves, the champion of reverse mortgage wisdom, is here to illuminate the path forward. So without further ado, let's dive into our conversation with Don. Get ready to gain insights, debunk myths, and discover the strategies that could redefine your retirement journey. Don, welcome to the show. It's a privilege to have you here.
Thank you, Marianne. It's delightful to be here as well.
Thank you. So I just wanted to dive in and start asking the questions. I wanted to know, what is a reverse mortgage? How has it changed since the past?
What is a reverse mortgage? Well, it's a good way to get shanked at a barbecue if you're not careful. I mean, think about it. Last time you were at the family barbecue and someone says, I'm thinking about maybe a reverse mortgage for mama. What happened? 3 people dove under the table, 3 people left the table, and your Aunt Janie made a shank out of a plastic knife and fork and came after you. It's just a dangerous way to live. And that's what most people think. And I remind folks, if you're listening and got a pen or paper, grab one. I'm going to share some things I think might be helpful to you. Here's the first thing. 4 letters, IJAM. IJAM. It's just a mortgage. Hey, folks, it's just a mortgage. It's a home equity loan for retirees age 62 or better that allows them to borrow money, like home equity loan, from their home. Now, the difference is Number one, you've got to be over the age of 62. One spouse has to be over the age of 62. You are not required to make any monthly loan payments after you take the money out. You can use it for whatever purposes you want. It's got to be on your principal residence. So what
Okay.
is a reverse mortgage, folks? IJAM. It's just a mortgage. It's just a loan for those age 62 or better.
Okay.
And so I started, Marianne, in this. I was president and CEO of a nonprofit organization in Philadelphia called Habitat for Humanity.
Familiar. I'm
And my
familiar.
sister called me 25 years ago and she said, little brother, she's 14 years older than me. She says, I've got something I think may interest you. And I said, tell me what it is. And she described it. And I said, oh, no, you're going to jail this time. That you finally did it. You're taking old people's houses. I said, I don't want to talk about this. You're going to get my phone bugged. And I didn't talk to her. I said, I don't want to talk about this ever again because it scared me. It didn't sound right. But
Hmm.
1 year later, um, I was wise enough to say, you know what, let me take a look at that. And there were in the area, there were 5 housing counseling agencies that did reverse mortgage counseling. So I called all 5 of them. I got
Okay.
breakfast meetings with 3 of them. And I sat down and I said, tell me the gotcha, the aha, the fine print. Tell me all the downside of it. And then I met with HUD. And HUD had a home ownership center here in Philadelphia at the Wanamaker Building. I went and sat down with them and Fannie Mae. I said, what's the gotcha? What's the fine print? What's the aha? You know, Marianne, what I came away with?
What?
That this program, 25 years ago when I started investigating, I said, oh my gosh, this, if used appropriately and for the right person and situation, it could absolutely change retirement. So
Who?
when I hear the reaction, the barbecue reaction, I understand because that's the same one that I had.
Okay. Who would be the right person for a reverse mortgage?
The right candidate for the reverse mortgage really varies.
Mhm.
And because reverse mortgages are about retirement, they're about retirement. A few things about retirement. Number one, we're living longer than the previous generation. Number two, we haven't saved enough to sustain that much longer retirement. And number three, we're coming into retirement highly indebted. And so, those who are listening, if you have any uncertainty about your retirement, here's a question. Are you 100% certain you're going to enjoy the retirement you envisioned? Or do you have some doubts? If your person says, well, Don, gosh, I don't know. We had a pandemic. There's another one that may come. There's global uncertainty. There's China. There's Ukraine. There's inflation. There's health issues that come. I'm not sure. And I said, well, listen, reverse mortgages are about retirement. Most people in retirement have 3 buckets. Some of them have all 3. Some of them have one of 3. Here are the 3 buckets. If you're writing down number 1, your income bucket. That
Mhm.
includes your Social Security, your pension, maybe you're still employed, your income bucket. Number 2, your investment bucket, your
Mhm.
401k, your IRA, your brokerage account, your bank savings, and maybe a business you have, a second home that can generate some income. And number
Mhm.
3, your insurance bucket. That includes fixed and variable annuities, whole and term life insurance. That includes disability insurance and long term care. Now, out of those 3 buckets, Marianne, you've got to, number one, have money to last you as long as you do in the midst of uncertainty, market volatility. Do you have that out of those 3 buckets? And those 3 buckets have to cover 3 very important E's. I'm sorry for all the acronyms. You can see I do this. But what are the 3 E's? Again, if you're writing, you're writing. It's about retirement, folks. The 3 E's in retirement, I've got the E of enjoyment. I want to enjoy some things. I'm go line dancing or cruise. Or I want some enjoyment, things that I weren't doing. The second E is expenses. Expenses. Listen, California and Florida, South Carolina, Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana, all State Farm, many of them have pulled out of those places homeowners insurance, and the companies that remain, you may be paying 2, 3, 4 times
Mm.
homeowner insurance. Things have just gotten more expensive. And the
Okay.
third E is emergencies. Things are just going to come up and you're going to need money for that. So, who's the ideal candidate? Who's the ideal candidate? A person who says, Don, I want to make sure that I have enough to cover the 3 E's out of my 3 buckets. Maybe I've got one of the 3. But what happened? I said, no, 87% of you have a 4th bucket. You've got a fourth bucket. 87% of people in the United States, retirees, own a home.
Mm-hmm.
So you're living in this big piggy bank. You've been sitting on it. You've been putting into it. And now that piggy bank can be turned into your fourth bucket. So now with your income, your investments, and then your insurance, now we could talk about the 52 ways to use your housing wealth to make your money last as long as you do and have the retirement you enjoy. So who does that fit? That fits the person. I had a client that had $45 million in assets. I had a retired CEO. He had $5 million with Merrill Lynch. He lived in a $4.5 million house at the shore. I had a lady in West Philadelphia had a $45,000 home. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't matter. What matters is what type of retirement do you envision? And can we look at your total plan and develop something that may make sense for you? It may not. I don't know if this is going to be right for you to do or not. But if you
Mm-hmm.
say, Don, I'd like to be able to increase my cash flow, reduce my retirement risks, preserve the assets I have, improve liquidity for the what ifs, and even add new dollars. If you fit into that category, then looking at your housing wealth, I believe not only is important, I believe it's essential.
Okay. All right. So I've I've come across two different types of folks. One where they understand the benefits from getting a reverse mortgage. They understand it and it's something they want to do. They know they don't have any heirs they want to leave the house to. And then I have other situations where it's the heirs that seem to have a problem after they found out that their aunt, their mom, their dad, somebody died, and now they're trying to get the property and they find out there's a reverse mortgage on that. How do
Mm-hmm.
you how do you overcome that type of objective? How do you explain to the heirs that this is what the parent did so that they could support themselves, so they could retire?
Mm-hmm. So, two questions you asked. I'll start with the latter. The mama's died, and the children find out mama had a reverse mortgage, and they're upset. They've called Uncle Leroy. They've called somebody and said, "I can't believe mama got this reverse mortgage, and now we don't get the home in all of its equity." And somehow, sometimes I get involved in that. I've been doing this now, coming into my 24th year. I've had 16,000 consumer facing conversations, and about 3,000 people went forward to become my clients. And all that tells us is that, as good as reverse mortgages are for many, they're not always the right thing to do. But it also says I've talked to a lot of people and I've heard a lot of
Mm-hmm.
stories. So, what do? So, the second of your question is the children are upset, or someone says, Mama got a reverse mortgage, and they come to me and they're upset. And I said, I'm sorry to hear about mama's passing. And these are not typically my clients because I involve the children. I asked Mr. and Mrs. Jones, which of your children helps you make financial decisions? What credit card to choose, what mortgage to have, how to negotiate your cable bill, whatever. Which one? And now, for most retirees, the answer is none of them. I got my first mortgage on my own. I pay my bills, get my credit card. And I say, well, which one of your children would you want to know and be involved in this? So that's, for me, that's how I overcome that. I involve those who they want involved. Now,
Okay.
why is it that retirees, including my own mother, would say, I don't need you involved in this? What I want, I don't want you to be giving me the okay sign and saying I can do something or not do something based on what you think I owe you. So what do? So first thing I ask when the children say, well, I'm upset, mama got a reverse mortgage and daddy, now I didn't get the house free and clear. My first question is always, why did mom and dad get a reverse mortgage?
Mm.
Well, I'm not sure. Okay. My second question, how come they didn't tell you for such a
Mm.
large decision? You're one of the heirs. Why didn't they tell you? I don't know. My third and final question, what did they do with the money? They got money. Something happened. There was an exchange of money. What happened to the money? Well, I don't know. Okay. So that's the nice side. That's the side, that why did they do it? Um, why didn't they tell you what happened to the money? If you don't know, then mom and dad have excluded you for a reason. And I know that no one wants to hear that. And Ray Bud, my assumption is mom and dad were solid folks and did financial planning, and they knew you would be happy and grateful for whatever you had left over. See,
Okay.
a reverse mortgage, IJAM, it's just a mortgage. So I tell folks, if mom and dad had a regular mortgage with Bank of America, City, Chase, Wells Fargo, and they died,
Mm-hmm.
and they had a $400,000 house, and they owed $100,000, what would happen when you got the
Mm-hmm.
house? Let me tell you the first thing that happened. As soon as Wells Fargo, Chase, City, Bank of America found out, they want their $100,000. So either you're going to have to refinance it based on your income, your credit, and pay it off. Number two, maybe mom and them had some extra money, life insurance policy, or pay it off. But less than 2% of children in America move into mom and daddy's house after they die. 98% plus sell the home, pay off whatever's owed, and they get the money. That's
Right.
typically what's going to happen. And so every now and again, children will come up, and I hear that question a lot. What do you do when children are upset? Ask them those three questions. On the front end, I ask their parents, is there anybody you want to be involved in this that we can sit down to? And I have a master class that anybody can watch it. And
Okay.
so I said, that's online. That's on demand. You can watch the master class. So we engage the children as
Okay.
best we can.
Okay. And so I guess that kind of speaks to the myths and misconceptions because they're always talking about if the parent got the reverse mortgage, the mortgage company is going to take their home away from them or something like that. Can you speak to those myths and misconceptions?
IJAM. And I said, "Is that what happens in a regular mortgage? Does the bank own the home, Mister and Mrs. The children, Pebbles and Bam Bam, all right? Pebbles and Bam Bam. Does the bank own the home in a regular mortgage? Well, no, they don't, Mister Graves. Well, what did they? Well, they have a lien against the property. That's right. Mom and Daddy can improve the house. They can sell the house. They can do what they want. They just have to pay back the mortgage. So the bank
Okay.
doesn't own the home. When mom and daddy die with their regular mortgage, does the bank get the home? No, Mr. Graves. No, they don't. And I said, remember, we started with IJN. It's just a mortgage.
Right.
So the misconception is that, oh, that's that loan where the bank loans you the money when you die. They take the house. Not true. It's
Okay.
just a mortgage. Oh, that's the deal that mama can get this loan and she could lose the house. She can be kicked out of the home if she runs out of money. Not true.
Okay. Okay.
Not true. There are four requirements on a reverse mortgage. Four requirements when you get a reverse mortgage. Most of your listeners will recognize these. I don't think they're spooky. But
Okay.
number one, at least one spouse must live in the property. If you're married, you can put your husband out, but you got to stay there. So someone's got to maintain the home as their primary residence. Number two, you got to take care of it. Can't let a tree fall through and not have it fixed. Number three, that's why you have to have homeowners insurance, on the property. And number four, most importantly, you have to pay your property related taxes. You have to pay your property taxes.
Okay.
So
Okay.
someone says to me every week, and I know a guy who had a friend who had a grandmother and she got a reverse mortgage. Her dog died. She grew a beard and she lost her house. That's where her dog was old and she already had a beard. And I said, so, no, listen, Don, this past Labor Day, I was over at my cousin Tracy's for the barbecue. And Uncle Junebug came out of cousin Tracy's spare bedroom. And we said, Uncle Junebug, what are you doing in there? He says, I live in here. And everybody in the barbecue said, what? You live in Tracy's spare bedroom? What happened? And here, listen, folks, here's what Uncle Junebug said. He said, oh, yeah, I got that reverse mortgage and I lost my house. And what does everybody say at the barbecue? I knew it. I knew
Yep.
it.
You shouldn't
I
have
knew
got
it.
that reverse mortgage.
And Tuesday they were over at the beauty salon. Wednesday they were at the barber shop. Thursday they were at the rotary, and they had buying chicken wings over at the store. And then Sunday came and they went early to church, to deacons meeting, and said we got to announce this at church and synagogue and mosque. And before you knew it, 1 week later, everybody in town knew someone who had an uncle, who had a cousin, had a friend, or someone got a reverse mortgage and lost their house. Right. And then it
Right.
comes back to you, Marianne, you to me, and they say, "Oh, you got these criminals on there." You say, "Don, what do you say about that? What do you say?" I said, "You're asking me?" I said, "Let me tell you. When Uncle Junebug said, I got the reverse mortgage and I lost my house, listen closely, he told the truth." Oh my gosh. I thought you were a righteous man. I said, "Oh, he didn't tell the whole truth,
Right.
but he did tell the truth." See, he did get a reverse mortgage. My question is, again, 3 questions. Why did he get it? How come he didn't tell you? What did he do with the money? Right? So I don't know. Okay. He did get a reverse mortgage and he did lose his house. Now, what didn't he do? He hadn't paid his property taxes for 4 years.
I knew you were going there.
For 4 years. Now, these are true stories. I had a fellow who's chief legislative assistant here in the greater Philadelphia area.
Mm-hmm.
I said that at a seminar. I said, no one's lost their house because of a reverse mortgage. He jumped up front row. That's not true. I'm with Philadelphia City Council. We got people every week losing their house for reverse mortgage. I said, not a single one of them has lost their house because of reverse mortgage. That's not true. Every Monday. I said, none of them have paid their taxes. They haven't paid their taxes in years. And it's the city of Philadelphia is taking action against them, or the municipality, wherever you're listening from. He says, that's not true. I said, you're going to owe me an apology. You go back and check. 3 days later, on a Thursday, he called me and he apologized. Mm-hmm. He said, every one of those people were behind in their taxes. He said, would you come and teach, do a seminar? I was at in the great room there in Philadelphia City Hall. 17 mm-hmm. members of Philadelphia City Council, their staff, they sent their staff, and I did a workshop on understanding the newly restructured reverse mortgage, mm-hmm. because none of those people were losing their homes. If Philadelphia City Council and family members knew mom and daddy were behind in taxes, number one, we should have had a GoFundMe. Number two, the 3 children should have ponied up money every week to figure this out. Or number 3, we should have looked at a proactive use of the reverse mortgage to make sure they could keep their property and not lose it to sheriff's sale. You see? So Uncle Drew Blood told the truth. He didn't tell the whole truth.
Okay. And I do want to just clarify, and I want everyone to hear this clearly. The key points that I got out of this conversation so far is that your home has to be in good condition, number one, and it has to remain in good condition, and that you are responsible for paying your own real estate taxes and your own insurance. And as long as you follow those guidelines, you should be in good standing with your reverse mortgage. Is that true?
Livable condition is what HUD says.
Okay.
And so some property is not in good condition, but it's unlivable. It can't be falling through, dilapidated. You can't have a tree have fallen in the last storm.
Okay.
And not fix it. It's a livable condition.
Okay.
So live in the property, pay your taxes, keep the home in a livable condition, and keep insurance in force on the property. Those 4 things.
Okay. And what types of properties are eligible for a reverse mortgage?
It must be your primary residence, the residence where you typically spend 6 months and 1 day. It could be single residence, duplex, all the way up to a 4-family unit, as long as you occupy one of the 4 units. It can be a manufactured home. It can be a modular home. It can be a condo or a townhome. Those condos have to be approved or approvable by HUD to do that. So those are the properties that are eligible for a reverse mortgage.
Okay. Now, I want to go back to that with the condominiums. You were saying that they need to be approved by HUD. Can you explain that, please?
No.
Okay, I can explain it. So
because that's what I got introduced to you first, because you're the wizard, you're the queen of that. And so, Marianne, tell us, what does that mean?
So I just wanted to let the audience know, if you're interested in purchasing a condominium and that's the place that you plan to age in place, and you're thinking about using a reverse mortgage, you have to make sure the entire community is approved by HUD for FHA financing. And that can be challenging sometimes. Now, there are condos out there that are already approved, so you might want to look in that direction. In the event that they're not, that is something that I do. I help communities get approved for FHA financing, but that can be challenging. And I think about the people who are already in the condominium. They're already getting up in age, and now they want to use this vehicle, and they're struggling to get the community to agree to get approved. That's kind of frustrating. So I was wondering, is there a way around that? Don, have you seen situations where people were still able to get a reverse mortgage living in a condominium unit that's in an association that's not approved? And I'm not talking about spot approvals.
Mhm.
I'm talking about, like, say there's no approval whatsoever. Is there a different type of reverse mortgage that's not FHA financing?
There are proprietary reverse mortgages,
Mhm.
and typically for higher home values, usually about $1.5 million or more, but they will do some lower ones, particularly if the condo is not approvable by FHA, but they also have their own approval process. So
Okay.
what we have found is if it's not approvable by FHA, we're not going to be able to do any reverse mortgage in that development. That's
Okay.
what we're seeing.
Okay. Well, that was important. Thank you on that.
Thank you for what you've done over the years.
Thank you. So you mentioned that there will be money. And I don't know if you mentioned that they don't have to pay that mortgage back yet. So, but could you speak to that? How is there going to be money and the fact that they don't have to pay it back?
Sure. To your listener, grab your pen and paper that I told you about. How much money does a reverse mortgage make available? A reverse mortgage is a federally insured loan for those age 62 or better. Only one person has to be 62. The other person only has to be age 18. So I had a 68-year-old and a 38-year-old. He was 38, he was 68, and they could do a reverse mortgage. So Texas requires both to be 62. But
Okay.
so the amount of money you get, a federally insured loan for those age 62 or better allows them to convert a portion of their home's value and turn it into tax-free dollars without having to give up ownership of your home, come off title, or make a monthly mortgage payment. Those three things. And so someone says, no, we need a portion. I said, well, if you had a $400,000 house and you went to the bank to get a home equity line of credit, would they give you $400,000? The client says, well, no. I said, how much would they give you? I don't know, 100, 150? Yes, they'd give you a portion. Now, how do they determine the portion they're going to give you? He said, I don't know. I said, they use a geometric shape called a square. They look at four things primarily: your income, your assets, your credit score, and your debt ratio. And based off of that, they say, here's the money we're going to loan you at what interest rate. Now, FHA, that oversees the home equity conversion mortgage program, nicknamed reverse mortgage, doesn't look at a square, it looks at a triangle. So if you're drawing, I want you to draw a triangle at home. Here's how we determine the benefit amount for the reverse mortgage. Number one, we look at the age of the youngest borrower. Put that at the top of the triangle, the age of the youngest borrower. The older you are, the more money you get. So if you're 98, you get more money than if you were 68, because conceptually you won't be holding the money as long as a 68-year-old. Number two, second point of the triangle, the value of your home, age. Number two, value of the home. And third point is the future predicted long-term interest rate. HUD calls it the expected interest rate. What do we think the interest rate will be at some point in the future? So those three things, 1, 2, 3, go into the special HUD formula. It crunches us up, and it spits out a number in the middle of the triangle. Well, Don, how much can I get? I'll give you a little thumbnail today, at today's date. Take the age of the youngest borrower. Age minus 35 equals percentage rate. Age minus 35 equal percentage rate. What does that mean? So let's say the youngest borrower is age 70. We're going to subtract 35, and that equals 35%. So they're going to get around 35% of home value today. Well, it's because interest rates are a little bit higher. And a month from now, maybe age minus 30. They get more money. Maybe at age minus 25. Interest rates are a little bit higher today. So I don't know when you may be listening to this, but I gave a reference to Labor Day. So that gives you some clue. So now, put that number in the middle of the triangle. So Fred and Wilma Flintstone have a home. They're 75 years of age. And we subtract 35, it's 40%. So they have a home that's $500,000. And 40% of that in the middle of their triangle is $200,000. They're eligible to receive a $200,000 reverse mortgage line of credit. Now, a reverse mortgage must be a first mortgage. This is very important. Underneath the base of the triangle, I want you to put the minus symbol. Put the minus symbol underneath the base of the triangle and subtract whatever your mortgage home equity loan balance are. So let's say Fred and Wilma owe $150,000. So in the middle of their triangle, You put $200,000. That's their reverse mortgage benefit. It must be a first mortgage, or we're going to subtract $150,000. And finally, we'll put the equal symbol, and that equals $50,000. 200 minus 150 equals 50,000. Please circle that if you're drawing. And I want you to write 4 very important words here. Growing line of credit. Growing line of credit. Now, this is where I spent the majority of my 24 years talking about the powerful ways to use the growing line of credit. So Fred and Wilma Flintstone, 75 years of age, had a $500,000 home. They got a $200,000 reverse mortgage benefit, and they paid off their mortgage of $1,500 a month. Marianne, hypothetically, how much were Fred and Wilma paying per month, principal and interest, for their mortgage? Hypothetical.
Probably about a little over 2,000.
All right, so let's do that. So Fred and Wilma, so the first thing the reverse mortgage did, by the way, this is the number one strategic use, most common of a reverse mortgage. Fred and Wilma were paying $2,000 a month principal and interest on their mortgage. How many people, Marianne, do you know? I want you to think of someone, and we'll come back to Fred and Wilma, but I want you to think of the last event you were at where people were age 55 and older and homeowners. For me, that was Labor Day event. Now, here's a question to your listeners. Keep that in mind. Last event you were at, family members were homeowners age 55 and up. How many of those homeowners had at least one of these? A mortgage, a second mortgage, a home equity loan, or a home equity line of credit? For most folks, you look around the room and you're going to say, everybody. Everybody had at least one of those.
Right.
Sure. I've got one.
Right.
And they had one. Steve, they had one. Al had one. Tony
right.
had one. Right. Everybody had a mortgage, second mortgage, home equity loan, or line of credit. So how common is it for people to come into retirement and have some sort of loan, mandatory loan payment on their home? Yeah, 2/3 of the people coming into retirement, that's a reality. So here's the question. Listen to this, folks. This is very important. I would say to you, I see that you're already, that's a great word, I see that you're already making a monthly mortgage payment. Mr. and Mrs. Jones, I'm curious. If you had a choice, would you rather that payment be mandatory or voluntary? What would you choose? Now, Marianne, most people look at me like I've got two heads, and they say something like, duh, voluntary. I say, me too.
Sure.
So, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, why would you choose a voluntary payment if you had a choice? And they say, Don, hedge against uncertainty. I have freedom, flexibility. I control my dollars. I spend less from my retirement savings. I give more. I sleep better. I said, absolutely. So let me ask you a question, Mr. and Mrs. Jones. If you could turn your mandatory monthly mortgage payment into a voluntary one, would you want to see how it works? Absolutely. They're going to say one of three things. Yes, how, or what you're talking about, Willis. One of those three things. And so back to Fred and Wilma Flintstone. Listen, if you're listening to this call and you've got a mandatory monthly mortgage payment, did you know that if you're over the age of 62, and that includes your parents, your grandparents, your aunties, and uncles, did you know there's such a thing as a voluntary mortgage payment option? It's not something I made up.
Right.
Started in America in 1961, part of the federal government's oversight, 1988. Folks, there are three programs that the federal government oversees to help support retirement. It's a three-legged stool. The first is Social Security, 1935. The second is Medicare, 1965. The third is the Home Equity Conversion Mortgage, 1988. See, the reverse mortgage, as we know it, is not new, it's not spooky, it's not dangerous.
Okay.
It allows you to turn a mandatory monthly mortgage payment into a voluntary one. So what? So you can choose what to do with those dollars in retirement.
Okay.
So back to Fred and Wilma. The triangle we drew, $200,000 in the middle of it. We paid off their mortgage of $150,000. They now have $2,000 in their pocket every month. And they've got $50,000 left over. I could talk forever to tell you there are 10 strategic benefits to getting rid of a mandatory monthly mortgage payment. I
Right.
think the listeners are sharp enough, keen enough to say, wait a minute. You're telling me that my mom doesn't have to have a mandatory mortgage payment? That's what I'm telling you. Dad, my auntie, my grandmother, that's what we're telling you. You, if you're over the age of 62 and listening, that's what I'm telling you. I'm telling you, you may not have known that. You may have been following Fonzie, Fred Thompson, Magnum PI, some TV commercial, and now Marianne Holt has come on here with her powerful podcast and is
Oh,
saying to you, sometimes you don't know what you don't know.
right.
The book of life says that my people perish
Mhm.
because of lack of knowledge. And sometimes we get, we hear things, and certainly a program that's been around this long, there were some bad actors early, there were some bad lenders, there's some things, and I haven't seen that in 15 years. But certainly, just like there were bad attorneys or bad surgeon, or things happen.
Mhm.
But what would stop you if you're age 62 or your parents, grandparents, someone, and you knew that turning their home into a growing line of credit, or getting rid of a monthly mortgage payment, or creating a reserve that's growing currently dated about 8.5%, that line of credit is growing what would stop you from at least, at minimum, saying, I wonder how this could benefit me? Wouldn't you want to know what you had in your piggy bank at a minimum? Let me say, Marianne, gosh, you got to shut me up now. I got to stop talking.
Di- I agree with you. You're right. I mean, it's no harm in finding out if this is a resource that's right for you. There's no harm in getting the information. That's why I always say that knowledge is the key. It's important. Get the information. Don't listen to what other people have to say. They don't have the experience or the expertise to tell you whether or not this is good for you. So I agree. They should find out. So when you say voluntary payments, what you're
Mhm.
saying is they can just decide not to pay it then. They can just
Most,
go ahead and just enjoy the savings.
mhm.
When do they ever get to the point where they have to pay that mortgage back?
The reverse mortgage loan, becomes due and payable when the last surviving borrower permanently departs the home.
Okay.
That is, they move, they decease, or they've gone into a facility for mental or physical incapacity for 365 consecutive days. Now that loan becomes due and payable.
Hmm.
It's to be paid back within 6 months, but extensions can be granted in 3 month increments, two of them, so you have up to 1 year to pay it back
Okay.
once the determination has been made.
Okay.
And what gets paid back? What gets paid back is whatever money was advanced to you plus any accrued interest. And after that's paid back, typically the children sell the house, they pay back whatever's owed on the reverse mortgage, and they pocket the difference. Let's go back to Fred and Wilma Flintstone.
Hmm.
They've got a $500,000 home. Homes typically, generally, will appreciate about 4%. They've been way more dramatic than that these last few years, but 4% is average. That means the typical home will double in value every 20 years. I tell
Okay.
people, say, oh, no, that's not true. And I say, what'd you buy your house for? So I bought it for 80,000. What's it worth now? 400,000. How long you been here? 30 years. Yeah, it's more than true for you. And I said, so that means at some point, let's say Fred and Wilma are 95 years of age, it's 20 years later, and they've got a home in Bedrock that's $1 million. Their reverse mortgage was $150,000. There'll be some closing costs on that, but let's say it's $150,000 and it's 20 years later. Now I'm going to make it a dramatic number. And let's say the interest stayed high and now they owe me $500,000 20 years later. It more than doubled. I'm being very dramatic. They have $1 million home. They have a $500,000 reverse mortgage balance. What happens? Pebbles and Bam Bam or whatever the children typically sell mama's house for $1 million. They pay
Okay.
off 500,000 and they pocket the difference. Well, Don, what happens if the house is not worth $1 million? Well, you get less or you get more. What
Hmm.
happens if they owe $500,000 and mama's house and daddy's house is 400,000? And 20 years Bedrock went the other way. It was terrible. It was terrible. So they die. they owe $500,000 and the house was only worth $400,000. I said reverse mortgages, listen to this word, folks, are non-recourse loans. Non recourse loans. That means the only recourse the lender has are the net proceeds from the sale of the property.
Okay.
No deficiency judgment will be taken against the heirs or the estate. No other assets can be used or can be encumbered to pay that off. So mom and daddy had a $400,000 house. They owed $500,000. This happened to me personally. My aunt and had no children. I was one of the 4 heirs. She got a reverse mortgage after Uncle Bert died.
Mm-hmm.
And all she had was Social Security and his Social Security. So she's getting about $850 a month, and she got a reverse mortgage to supplement that income. Oh, she was ecstatic. And she died. So we thought, well, we'll get the house and split it up. Mm-hmm. But it was that time where home values had really plummeted, gone the other way. So she ended up owing more than the home was worth. And so we didn't get anything. And someone says, well, weren't you disappointed? I said, listen, I don't want to disrespect you by punching you in the head. But are you suggesting that when my aunt got a reverse mortgage to supplement her income of $850, that somehow I would be disappointed that I didn't get something in the end? So I tell folks, if you've got children like that, you don't want me as your consultant. You don't. You get someone off the TV, off the radio.
Right.
Because I'm going to say to Ray Bud, I'm going to say something offensive. See, if your child is sitting on the couch watching Ricky Lake and Jerry Springer reruns talking about Mama, where's dinner? Did you finish my underwear? And they're 50, 60 years of age, you probably don't want me to be your consultant because my concern is you. My concern is you. If you've ever ridden on an airplane, Marianne, I know you have, in that part where the flight attendant says if the cabin loses pressure and the oxygen masks come out. Now, they say it better these days. They used to say, put your mask on first before helping your children. They don't say that anymore. They say, put your mask on first before helping others. And I say, hey, Ray Bud, today's is about mama having enough financial oxygen that she could live with peace of mind for the remainder of her days. Mm-hmm. This is not a presentation for how you can continue to get your meals cooked, watch free cable television, and get your underwear folded. That's not what today is about. Now, if that's what you want me to talk about, I've got to leave. Right? So I say that tongue in cheek, but I mean that very seriously. There's some children who are evil.
Yes.
The hand of senior elder abuse is not from the hand of strangers.
Yeah.
It's from the hands of family members. True. So I don't know how I got off on that. Let me get off my high horse.
No, I know how you got there because I understand how you feel. When I was a housing counselor, I used to do the reverse mortgage counseling. Mm-hmm. And I would have situations where the senior came in with their child, adult child, and I would tell them about the benefits of the reverse mortgage. And when the child would act, wasn't happy about their parent getting it, I would say, well, look, this reverse mortgage is going to give her $1,000 a month. Like she's going to be able to have supplement her income by $1,000 a month. So let's not do it. Are you willing to give her $1,000 a month?
No.
And it's that they're never willing to do that. So my bottom line is this. If you are a senior and you are eligible for this and you see this as a benefit, then you got to think about you. If you want to get some type of insurance or whatnot, so you can leave your children something, have at it. But when it comes to this is a tool for you to use to help supplement your retirement. So you owe it to yourself to find out if this is the benefit for you.
Absolutely. Marianne, I've run out of things to talk about.
That was my high horse right there. I get frustrated by it. I just want one more thing I wanted to cover. I know that people can use a reverse mortgage to purchase a home. Mm-hmm. Now, you're not a loan officer, right? So
I am.
Oh, you are. So then you can speak to this. Mm-hmm. How do they do it? How do they use a reverse mortgage to purchase a home?
Mm-hmm. And for those who are listening, I do a few things. So for all of my career, I've been a licensed loan originator, and I help typically financial advisors and their clients um, implement a reverse mortgage strategy in my team from start to finish. I give leadership to a team about 200 with a large Fortune 300 company here that's been in business 100 something years. I won't mention it here, but this is what I do. This is what I do. So, part of the Housing and Economic Recovery Act, or Homeowners Economic Recovery Act 2008, a new type of reverse mortgage was implemented that allowed you to buy a home using a reverse mortgage. But how does it work? Fred and Wilma Flintstone sold their home in Bedrock for $500,000. They paid off what they owe, and they've got $350,000 left over. Folks, you got that? You sold your house, whatever you're doing. You say, if I sold my house, how much money would I have left over? Fred and Wilma had $350,000 left over, but they wanted to buy a $600,000 home. A $600,000 home. But they only have $350,000 left over. See, they wanted to upgrade. And so they've got a few choices. They could take out a mortgage, the difference between 600 and what they have, and make monthly payments. Say, no, we don't do that again. They could take money out of their savings, go grab $250,000. Say, no, we definitely want to do that. Or they can do what's called the reverse for purchase, which allows you to buy your next home with about 50 to 60% down payment and have no monthly mortgage payment. So let me tell you how it works. Fred and Wilma have $350,000 left over. If you're writing, jot that down, 350, and circle it. Those are their proceeds. The home they want to buy is $600,000. $600,000. And so we're going to do a reverse mortgage on that new home before they've even moved in.
Mm-hmm.
They put a contract, they got a contract, purchase contract, they put their earnest money, and I do a reverse mortgage. And the reverse mortgage for that home made $300,000 available. So their new home was $600,000. The reverse mortgage made $300,000. So I'm going to subtract that. So 600 minus 300 in Falmouth, Kentucky equals $300,000.
Mm-hmm.
That's their down payment. They've got to come up with $300,000 to move into a $600,000 home in this example.
Okay.
Well, great news. They had $350,000 left over after they sold their home in Bedrock. So they get the $300,000 from there, and they still have money left over. That's one way to do it. Here's something more exciting. Someone says, a lady in West Philly said, she says, I'm going to sell my West Philly home for $200,000. I'm going to move to $350,000 home, 55 plus community. Mm-hmm. She can do it because she's going to use the reverse for purchase. So her $400,000 home or $350,000 home, we're going to make $150,000 available from the reverse mortgage. And so she's going to use what she had in proceeds to move to a whole different location. Listen, some folks are saying that's a little dangerous where I live, or there are too many young people, or I want to be in a different situation. Some people say, Don, I've got $400,000 left over when I sold my house, and I'm going to move to a $300,000 home. One floor, washer and dryer on one floor. I don't need it. The kids aren't coming back. I said, well, you could just pay cash. 400 pays 300, but what if we could do a reverse mortgage?
And they can keep their money.
And now they're keeping, instead of having $100,000 left over, what if they have another $200,000-$300,000 left over for their retirement? So buying a home with the reverse mortgage, our firm, we do the most of these in the United States. So this is our specialty. For your listings, I don't know if there'll be podcast notes, but I'd like for a way
there'll be podcast notes
to find me, but you want to learn about this. You want to learn about this.
Well,
buying a home is powerful.
Well, let's go there. How can someone reach out to you if they wanted to learn more about a reverse mortgage for themselves?
Sure. In a way that you can remain incognito and get the education, you can go to reversemortgagemasterclass.com, www.reversemortgagemasterclass.com. There's a 47-minute masterclass where I talk about it's just a mortgage. It's not a last resort. and it's more than a television commercial. You can watch it. And if you say, Don, I watched it, I want to talk to you about that, there's a way to get in contact with me. So Reverse Mortgage Masterclass is a very simple way for you to get educated. If you'd like to email me directly, it's askdongraves@gmail.com. That gets to my team, askdongraves@gmail.com, if you want to get to me, have a question for me. But watch the masterclass. Oh, that's an easy way in the convenience of your own home to just get the education around it. Okay. We just started that earlier this year, and I think 600 folks have gone through that. And so it's a wonderful resource.
Okay. All right. And I will make sure that information is jotted down in the description, so you guys will have access to that information as well. So any final words, Don, before you leave?
Marianne, I thank you. I wish you great success on your podcast. I want to reemphasize, one day I got a call from a financial services company, and they said, Don, you've got money over here. I said, money? I got money with you? You got money over here. And I said, well, how'd I get money with you? I'm thinking it's a scam, right? And they said, well, when you left Wells Fargo, you had a 401k. I said, no, I thought I rolled over this to that. They said, you did, but you had 2 401ks, and one of them's with us. And I really thought this is a scam. But I said, well, who are you? And what they knew me, my social security number, where I worked for, when I worked, kid's first name, blood type, and all that. I said, oh. Now, once I discovered, listen to this, listeners, once I discovered that these folks were legitimate and I had money over there that I hadn't realized, what do you think my very next question was to them, Marianne?
How can I get my money?
My next question was, how much is it?
Oh, I thought you said it was 400,000. Maybe I missed it.
No, we're talking about. No. I had money over there, and they said, and I said, well, how much is it? And it was substantial. I thought, I don't have it like that to just be having money floating out there and I didn't even know where it was. See, to your listener, 87% of you are living in a home. I'm telling you, it's real, it's legitimate, it's true, it's insured by the Federal Housing Administration underneath the federal government. Wouldn't your next question want to be, well, how much is in there? That's whether you use it or not. Whether I told those folks over at Principal Financial, no, I don't need that. Y'all go ahead and keep it. No way. Wouldn't you want to know whether you use it or not? Please don't have listened to this podcast, and at a minimum, please find out, Don, I want to know how much is in there. That's easy for you to do. That's easy for my team to send it to, and we won't bother you. We'll just tell you. And if you don't want to do that, take your age, subtract the number 35, and that gives you a percentage rate, and multiply that by your home value. You're sitting on something that could change your retirement. There are 52 ways to use a reverse mortgage to change your retirement. 52 ways.
Wow. And there you have it, folks. What an enlightening conversation we had with Don Graves, a true luminary in the world of reverse mortgages and retirement planning. I hope you found this deep dive into the realm of financial wisdom as enlightening as I have. As we wrap up this episode, remember that knowledge is the key to informed decision-making, especially when it comes to securing your financial future in retirement. Whether you're a financial advisor, seeking insights, or someone curious about retirement planning, there's always more to discover in this dynamic field. A heartfelt thank you to Don Graves for generously sharing his wealth of knowledge and providing us with invaluable insight into the world of reverse mortgage and retirement income planning. And to my dedicated listeners, thank you for joining me on this enlightening episode of MH Knows or She Knows Someone Who Does, Uncovering Real Estate Secrets. I am committed to continuing this journey with you, bringing you more financial wisdom and introducing you to experts who truly understand the intricacies of retirement planning. If today's episode has been valuable to you, please consider subscribing, liking, leaving a review, and sharing it with friends and colleagues who might benefit from the expertise we've explored. Until next time, this is Marianne Holt signing off and reminding you that when it comes to financial planning, knowledge is your greatest asset. Stay curious, stay informed, and remember, MH knows or she knows someone who does. Take care.